Before this story begins, pause for just 5 seconds. If you have ever been drawn to stories about power, silence, and the kind of love that nobody sees coming, this channel was built specifically for you. Every story we tell here is cinematic, emotional, and impossible to forget. Hit that subscribe button right now. Turn on your notifications. Because once this story starts, and I mean the very next sentence, you will not want to stop. This is love in the underworld. And this is where we begin. They said he had never lost. Not a deal. Not a war. Not a single man who dared to cross him. Rafael Vaz didn't just rule the underworld. He was the underworld. 40 countries. 40 years of fear. Built on blood, silence, and the kind of power that makes governments look the other way. Then she walked in. No weapon. No demands. No fear. Just a young Nigerian-Mexican woman in a simple white dress, who looked at the most dangerous man alive like he was something she was still deciding about. She never raised her voice. She never made a threat. And somehow, within 3 weeks, 40 armed men were watching her every move. Not because she commanded them, because he couldn't take his eyes off her. And nobody, not even Rafael himself, could explain why. This is the story of the woman who said nothing and changed everything. 3 weeks earlier, Amara Solis sat across from a recruitment officer in a glass tower in Mexico City and answered every question in a calm, measured voice. The position, personal household coordinator for a private estate. The salary, obscene. The requirements, discretion, efficiency, and the ability to work in close proximity to a man most people cross streets to avoid. She was 24. Her references were flawless. Her composure was unreadable. She got the job. What the recruitment officer didn't know, what no one knew, was that Amara had spent 14 months engineering every single credential on that application. Had studied Rafael Vaz the way scientists study fault lines, looking for the crack that would eventually break everything open. She moved into the estate on a Tuesday. By Wednesday, she had memorized every camera angle, every guard rotation, every entrance and exit. By Thursday, she had begun to understand that Rafael Vaz was nothing like what she'd expected, and that made everything more dangerous. Not the kind written down, the kind enforced by consequence. No one spoke to him unless spoken to. No one looked at him directly for longer than 3 seconds. No one entered a room he was already in without announcing themselves first. Amara broke every single rule within 48 hours. Not dramatically, not with defiance, just quietly, calmly. Like the rules didn't apply to her, not out of arrogance, but out of a complete absence of fear. She walked into his study without knocking because the door was open. She met his stare and held it, not challenging him, just present, like she was looking at a person rather than a power. When he asked her why she hadn't announced herself, she looked at him steadily and said, "The door was open." And then she set down the files he'd asked for and left. His head of security, Marco, waited for the explosion. It didn't come. Rafael Vaz looked at the door she'd walked through and said nothing for a long time. "Run a deeper background check," he finally said. "We already ran 3, Marco replied. "Run a 4th. By the 2nd week, Rafael noticed something unsettling. He was aware of her location in the estate at almost every moment. Not obsessively, not romantically. The way you're aware of a sound that doesn't quite fit the ambient noise of a room. Something that pulls at the edge of attention without announcing itself. She moved differently than everyone else. His staff performed their roles. They were efficient, scripted, careful. Amara simply existed in spaces, doing what needed doing, carrying no performance with her. She never flattered him, never softened her voice when he entered, never looked nervous. But she also wasn't cold. When one of the kitchen staff dropped an entire tray of glassware and went white with fear, Amara was the one who crouched down beside her, helped her clean it, and said something quietly that made the woman breathe again. Rafael watched from the corridor, unseen. He thought, "Who are you?" He also thought, "Why does that question feel urgent?" Something is building in this story, and trust me, you are not ready for where it goes. Hit that subscribe button right now and turn on your notifications. The next few chapters will change everything you think you know about these two people. It was an accident, or it looked like one. Amara was reorganizing the document archive, a task she had specifically requested because she knew what she was looking for when she found a folder with no label. Inside, financial transfers, shell companies, and a name. Okafor Solis. Her father's name. Her hand stayed still. Her face stayed neutral. Her breathing didn't change. Because she had known it was there. She had known this was the thread. She had spent 14 months getting into this room specifically to find it. What she hadn't expected was the document beneath it. A memo, dated 4 years ago. Rafael Vos's signature at the bottom. And the words, "Get the family out first. No harm comes to them." Amara sat with that sentence for a long time. Her father had died in the collapse of a business deal gone violent. A deal she had traced back to Vos's network. She had built her entire plan, her entire life for the past 3 years, on the certainty that Rafael Vos had ordered it. But this memo said something different. It said he had tried to stop it. Get the family out first. Her father had died anyway. But maybe, not by Rafael's hand. Amara put the folder back exactly where she found it. And for the first time since she'd walked into this estate, she didn't know what she was doing there. Speech balloon, do you think Amara should still go through with her plan? Drop your thoughts below, because I promise, this gets more complicated. There was a dinner. 12 men. A deal worth 9 figures. Amara served, observed, said nothing. But Rafael, seated at the head of the table, kept finding his gaze returning to her. Not inappropriately. Not obviously. The way you keep returning to a painting that feels like it knows something you don't. At one point, a guest, loud, self-important, 3 drinks in, made a comment in her direction. The kind of comment designed to reduce a person. His tablemates laughed. Amara didn't react. Didn't look up. Just continued what she was doing with absolute steadiness. But Rafael's jaw tightened. "Senor Aguirre," he said quietly, cutting across the laughter. "We were discussing the terms." The laughter stopped immediately. Aguirre paled. After the dinner, when everyone had gone, Amara was clearing the table alone. Rafael appeared in the doorway. "You didn't have to stay," he said. "I know," she replied without looking up. A silence. "That man won't be invited back," Rafael said. She looked up then, studied him for a moment. "You didn't do that for me," she said. Not accusatory, just precise. "No," he agreed. "I did it because he was disruptive." She nodded slowly and went back to work. He stood in the doorway for another beat, and then, quietly, walked away. Neither of them believed what he'd just said. He found her on the rooftop at midnight. She went there to think. He hadn't known that until now. Hadn't known anyone in his estate would choose the open sky over a locked room. He almost turned around. He didn't. "You're not afraid of me," he said. She considered the city below them. "Should I be? Everyone is." "That sounds exhausting," she said quietly. "For you." He wasn't prepared for that. No one in 11 years had considered what his power cost him. "Why did you take this job?" he asked. She was quiet for a moment. "I needed to understand something." "And do you?" Another pause. The city hummed far below. "I'm starting to," she said. "I'm not sure I wanted to." He looked at her. She looked at the city. "That's the most honest thing anyone said to me in years," he said. She finally turned to face him. And the look she gave him was complicated, full of things she hadn't resolved, questions she hadn't answered, a plan she was no longer sure she believed in. "Don't make me regret saying it," she said. Marco didn't trust her, had never trusted her. And unlike Rafael, Marco didn't let uncomfortable feelings sit unexamined. He ran a 5th background check, then a 6th. Then he started making calls to Lagos. What he found took 3 days to piece together. Okafor Solis, a name in a 4-year-old file, and a daughter, Amara Solis, aged 24, who had, 18 months ago, begun systematically building a false identity, studying Rafael Vos's operations, and engineering herself into his proximity. Marco brought it to Rafael on a Thursday morning, laid every document on his desk, said nothing while Rafael read. The silence in the room was total. Then Rafael looked up. His face was controlled, but Marco had worked for him for 11 years and knew what controlled cost him. "She knows about her father," Rafael said. "Seems like she came here to confirm it was you," Marco said carefully. Rafael stood, walked to the window. "And the memo? The one ordering the extraction?" "She's seen the archive. She may have found it." Rafael was quiet for a long time. "Don't touch her," he finally said. "Boss, she hasn't done anything." A pause. "And she deserves to know the truth." He came to her room that evening. Knocked. Waited. She opened the door and read his face immediately, saw what was in it, and stepped aside to let him in without a word. He sat down. set a folder on the table between them. I know who you are, he said. I know why you're here. She didn't deny it. Didn't perform surprise. Just sat across from him with that stillness that had undone him from the beginning. Your father, he said. His death wasn't ordered by me. One of my lieutenants acted without authorization during the deal collapse. He was trying to silence a witness. It went wrong. I know, Amara said quietly. I found the memo. Then you know I tried. I know you tried to get us out, she said. Her voice was even. Careful. That's not the same as it not being connected to your world. The silence between them wasn't hostile. It was honest. Two people sitting inside an uncomfortable truth. No, Raphael said. It's not. The lieutenant, she said. Where is he? A pause. He doesn't work for me anymore, Raphael said. That's not what I asked. Raphael met her eyes. And then, quietly, he's gone. 2 months after your father died. I handled it. Amara looked at him for a long time. Something moved behind her eyes, not relief exactly. More like a door opening into a room she wasn't sure she was ready to walk into. I spent 3 years hating you, she said. I know. I don't know what to do with that now. Neither do I, Raphael said. And for the first time, he sounded like a man and not an empire. Speech balloon, who do you blame at this point? Raphael, the lieutenant, the system, or all of it? This is where it gets morally complicated. Tell me below. She didn't leave. He didn't ask her to. For 3 days they existed in the estate in a different kind of silence. Not the careful silence of a plan, but the raw silence of two people who had told the truth and were now living inside it. He found her in the garden on the 4th morning. She was sitting in the grass, in that simple, unperformed way she did everything, looking at nothing in particular. He sat beside her, at a distance, said nothing. After a while she said, My mother used to say that hate and love are the same weight. One just pulls you forward and one pulls you back. And where does that leave you? He asked. A long pause. I don't know yet, she said honestly. I came here to destroy something. I found something that's harder to deal with than an enemy. What's that? She looked at him. Direct. Unflinching. Completely herself. A person, she said. Raphael Voss, who had survived wars, governments, and men 3 times her size, felt those 2 syllables hit him somewhere armor didn't reach. What do you want, Amara? He asked quietly. She thought about it. Genuinely. Carefully. I want the truth to be enough, she said. I want my father to matter. And I want to stop carrying something that weighs more than I do. I can't give you your father back, he said. I know. But I can make sure he's remembered. He paused. If you'll let me. She looked at him for a long time. And then, slowly, the first time in 3 years, Amara Solis let herself breathe. 6 months later, the Solis Foundation was established. Educational programs in Lagos and Guadalajara, named for a man who taught his daughter that silence was a language, and that patience was the most powerful weapon a person could carry. Raphael Voss funded it. Quietly. Without announcement. His empire didn't soften. His enemies didn't multiply. His world didn't transform into something clean and simple, because real change never works that way. But he started making different decisions. Slower ones. Ones with weight and consideration rather than pure calculation. And Amara? She didn't stay because he was powerful. She didn't stay because she'd run out of reasons to leave. She stayed because she had done something almost no one in his world had ever managed. She had looked at Raphael Voss without fear, without agenda, and without illusion. And she had found a person worth staying for. The most dangerous man alive. Brought to his knees not by a weapon, or a rival, or an act of war, but by a woman who understood that the deepest power doesn't make noise. It simply remains. She came to destroy him. She found something more dangerous, the truth. He built an empire to feel nothing. She walked in and made him feel everything. Neither of them planned it. Neither of them could have. But that's the thing about silence. It creates space. And in the space between two people with nothing to perform and nothing to prove, something real can grow. Amara never needed to say much. She just needed to stay. And that was the one thing Raphael Voss had never known how to ask for. If this story hit you somewhere deep, share it with one person who needs to hear that patience is power, and that the quietest people in the room are sometimes the ones changing everything. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and come back for the next story, because I promise you, it will be even more unforgettable than this one. The next episode drops soon. Don't miss it.